Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning. All right. I just want to make sure that you're awake. Well, thank you for being here, not only for just day 2, but being here so early in the morning. Very much appreciated. I know our speakers back there are happy that people are in the room. So, a couple of things. Yesterday was action-packed. Today is action-packed. We talked about soft metrics. We talked about ads versus experiences. We talked about transformation. We actually have a very engaging lineup for you today, and I encourage you to stick around to the end. The last conversation this afternoon is really about how you have to contend with internal transformation, because that's really what this gets down to. So a couple of things that I would like to share with you before I bring up our first speaker. Did anybody have problems with Wi-Fi yesterday? I heard a rumor. All right. Well, that's fixed. I'm going to tell you a story later today when we have some more time about how that was fixed. And it was actually fixed with the help of your complaints. So I'll share that story a little bit. But I would also like to thank our friends from Sysomos who tracked the tweets while Wi-Fi was up. I think we had about 3,300 yesterday. All positive, so thank you. But that's not good enough. I think we're going to try to trend today. So we have a bunch of wireless for you to use. You have the main pivot wireless that you'll see. That's good for your notebooks. Then you'll see a series of pivot, 1, 2, 3, etc. Those are good for iOS devices. So you have more bandwidth, I hope, than you can actually use today. So let's test it. Now, with that, I would like to welcome our first speaker. His name is John Bond, and he is the CEO of Big Fuel. The session is titled "The Dirty Little Secret: Is Social Really Just Hot Air?" Please join me in welcoming John Bond.
Thank you. So my name's John Bond. I'm a recovering traditional agency person. Thank you. I'm on step 9, so I hope I don't have a relapse today. It's completely upside down, completely different than the agency world that I left. Some things are better, some things are worse. One thing that's worse, I noticed, we made about 130 videos for one client last year. And they cost about $0.25 each and take 2 days. And you go to the video shoot and they give you McDonald's. But I remember when we do TV commercials, it'd be like 6 months to make 3 commercials. We'd be arguing over where the period goes in the tagline. We go, I'm tired. And you'd go to the shoot and they have craft services, which is basically expensive gourmet food everywhere. And I really miss craft services. That's the thing I miss the most about it. So we're going to talk today about some issues with social media and its impact in the agency world and where I think it's going. I'm going to just try to have a conversation. I'm going to hopefully, I don't think it's working, look at some questions people might be tweeting me. Or if anyone has any questions, raise your hand. Because I hear social media is supposed to be a conversation. So I'm not supposed to talk at you for 20 minutes. That's what they tell me. So, where it's going from an agency perspective. So, first of all, I think that since I've been in this business for 30 years, the technology and media changes really are what create the dominant rules for marketing overall. So when I got into the business, TV, it's about saying something that 30 million people have marginally in common, lowest common denominator, and it's one way in a big way, right? And that's how everybody thought about all marketing that way. No matter what you did in marketing, that was the perspective. It was like everything through a TV lens. Then we got the internet, we got websites, there's a place to go, this idea of customer journey, and that became the way everyone thought about marketing. And so that's a shift, but then from one way to two way to every which way, a networked world is not an incremental shift, it's a geometric shift, And it's changed the rules not of social media, not just of social media, but of what people expect from brands in any interaction they have with them. And all of these, all of the issues with networked world about lack of, about giving up control and about peer-to-peer and, the whole gestalt of it, to us, to me, is what marketing is, not just what social media is. And I think that's a huge shift for agencies and clients to think about everything they do in a different way. And, it led me to think about the lead agency of the future. And if you look at two issues, kind of the brand agencies, people say the traditional agencies, but I like to say brand agencies. They're very good at the humanity side. They're very good at emotional. Then you have the technology agencies that came through digital. And then you have social media. And to me, what's great about social media from a culture standpoint of an agency, because agencies are all about culture, is it is the seamless blend of humanity and technology. In fact, the technology that works in social media tends to be technology that is built consistent with human nature and just kind of, adds some scale to what people naturally do. So I think the social media culture and social media agencies will become more and more important to clients, and in fact could have the right DNA to actually be the lead agency. And by the way, it's not very easy to change an agency culture. And you could say, I'll put a tech person here, I'll put somebody who's more of a brand person here, they'll talk to each other. But, there's this game of telephone, doesn't always work. If I have both inside my brain, okay, I can talk to myself, which happens a lot faster and is a lot cheaper than people talking to each other. It's integrated. So that, to me, is a great opportunity for social media agencies. And I think it's difficult for the other agencies to get that DNA. Yes?
Have you ever used social media?
I do. Not very well, but I do. And
Twitter account? Facebook?
I do. I do.
37 followers?
I have more than that.
Thank you.
Frankly, I don't like Twitter.
Why?
I like Facebook. I think I like aesthetics, and it's ugly. But that's just me. But I do it. I have to do it for my job. So I do it. There's certainly people that know a lot more about Twitter than me. There's people that know a lot more about Facebook and every aspect of social media in the agency.
There's multiple applications you could use to clean up the UI.
What I say to everyone in the agency is, to me, I don't like it. All right? I do it because I have to do it for my job. Not my favorite thing. Everyone's got different personalities and use. No, let me make a point. Okay? Here's what I say to everyone in the agency. Stop talking about Twitter and Facebook until you answer this question. Why shouldn't we give the client the $10 million they gave us back and put it into TV? Till you can answer that question, do not talk about Twitter or Facebook or any specific subset of social media. What's the point? What does it do for the client? How does it fit into the overall marketing mix? And why is that $10 million in social better? And what's it going to do that the $10 million can't do better anywhere else? That's what I think about. And other people know the specifics of how to do it.
Do you think I've been wasting my time on Twitter?
OK, I'm now going to continue the presentation with other people. OK? So there's a hostility therapist back here. We'll deal with this later. Thank you very much. But I appreciate your comments. Thank you. Now, I think the metric for great, here's a ratio that I've thought about, which is the ratio of paid media to free or semi-free, owned and earned, right? And this is, to me, a lot more than a number. There's a lot more in this, I think, than just a ratio. I think the great brands today basically get a lot of free for every dollar in paid. And the reason they do that is they have passion. They have a passionate following. And that, to me, the best way to do that is in social media. It's bottom up and not top down. I mean, Apple has spent $500 million in paid for the last few years. They get more every year, but they don't spend more. And I think and one of the things I used to say is, the future of marketing is like sex. Only the losers are going to have to pay for it. So another issue is production, which production has been, the end of the assembly line in the ad agency business. Here's the idea, here's the media, now you make the stuff, okay? I think production is moving up the hierarchy and is very, very strategic. And the reason is that I think what you have to do today is micro-target, and let's say you have 20 micro-targets, because social media is voluntary. I don't have to participate. So I have to increase the relevance of the content, and the way to increase the relevance of the content is by narrowly focusing on a small group and maybe even creating it with them. So to do that, if it takes you 3 months and $100,000 to make a video, you can't do it. It's not feasible. So being able to produce, I call disposable razors, as opposed to slow, expensive TV commercials. If you can't make disposable razors, you can't micro-target and you can't play this game. The other thing about production that's strategic is speed of culture. Things changing instantly, and if you can't jump on the changes that are happening in real time and create content that's relevant in the moment, in real time, then you can't take advantage of opportunities. And that also is production. So production is key and not tactical. It's strategic. Marketing as a service. So social media is voluntary. So the content that we create has to be something that people want to engage in. So really, I think a cultural shift for all of us is really, we're creating a service. We're not selling something and pushing something at somebody. And that's a huge difference. I mean, if I said, let's say and we know more about people. We know everything about you. We know where you are. We know physically where you are. So the more we know about you, the more we can give you messages and give you content that has value to you as opposed to just trying to sell you something. So if I'm walking down the street and I'm looking for a special wine and you send me a message that tells me it's right over there, it just came in, that's a service. And I actually think one day you'll be able to charge people for marketing. You'll be able to make them pay for marketing. I mean, Samsung did something in Asia where they got a hold of the last episode of a hot TV series, and the only way to see it was on your Samsung mobile device. That's pretty cool. So again, that's elevating content to not only something that I want, but something I must have. And I think that it's a very interesting way to do it. Would people pay for your content? You might not charge them, but I think if you think about it that way, you'll head in the right direction. Agencies own consumers. Agencies love to own things. That's a huge cultural shift. And so agencies want to own everything they can. And then they think, can we own consumers? Can we own influencers? Can we own communities? And I think the answer is no. So then you go, okay, can't own consumers. Can you own a community? I think the answer is no. Well, then what can you own, quote unquote? I think having people in the agencies that infiltrate these various communities so that they're on the inside and is almost a representation of that community is as close as we can get. But then those people have a dual allegiance. They might work for the agency, but if they don't serve the community and they undercut the interests of the community for commercial purposes, then they're of no value to the agency. So I think that's the closest we can get to that, which is basically, but there has to be a respect, almost allegiance of these people. And we have people who have sports passions and they run a sports community. But their first allegiance has to be to the community, not even to us. And that's in our best interest. So that's, I think, a really difficult cultural shift for agencies to think about and clients. Marketing becomes a life skill for most consumers. Funny thing is, marketing is everywhere in social media, and consumers, the average consumer sometimes knows more about marketing than people in agencies and even clients. And my son went to college and he looked at his roommate and he only had 30 Facebook friends and he's like, oh, he's a loser. So you've got media metrics that we would have had to pay a lot of money just for the stuff that's free in social media. He's got the branding part, you know, how he did his Facebook page, how many Twitter followers, as this man said, I don't have enough, you know, whatever it is. And everybody is a brand. People are their own media company and their own brand. And I think that marketing, just like people can kind of know how to balance their checkbook and have some financial skills, I think pretty much all consumers are going to have some marketing skills. And what I've noticed is, because everybody's a marketer now, because we all have our own personal brands that we're marketing, and by the way, a lot of kids are like, hey, you know, I get some followers, I get some influence, I actually could get some graft, maybe make some money on this. Because that's so widespread, the sophistication level of agencies must go up, because when the consumer knows more about marketing than you, then a lot of the disasters in social media have come from not understanding this world and the marketer not getting the rules and the basic, you know, it's really more about EQ than IQ. You know, when I got into the business, it was an EQ-driven business. Then it went to more data and IQ. And I think social media is EQ. And I tell people, whatever you do, if you have good social skills, if you do that in social media, you'll be okay. If you don't know the answer, you just say, I don't know. That's okay. You don't have to be perfect. It's just kind of like people who have good social skills that you like and you respect. And that's pretty much, to me, the philosophy of social media. The first agency, Billionaire. So, you know, the agency business has taken a lot of hits, and everyone's been complaining for the last decade. I think it's going to have a resurgence, and I think social media will be a big part of that. And, you know, one thing that's happened in the agency business is that there's a small delta with the different agencies in compensation and the people in agencies. Because clients don't know exactly what I got. They have a hard time measuring the real ROI, and therefore they want to cut the cost down. So it's not like, it's like Hollywood. The only reason people are waiters in Hollywood is because they can get to be a superstar. Well, you really can't get to be a superstar in agencies quite so much. And the difference between the highest and the lowest paid people at a certain years in the business is narrow. And the same between the good agencies, the bad agencies don't get paid much differently. And the thing that's going to free that up is the reason that hedge funds guys can make $1 billion a year. They make, I just like, this guy makes $1 billion a year, and the same client's smiling, writing him a check for $100 million, and I'm arguing over $1.25. Why is that? Because he just made them $200 million. It's you know, absolutely clear that they gave him $1 and he gave them back $2 or $3. That's where we're headed now, and once we get there, then the people who deliver the results will get rewarded multiple times, not a little bit more than the other people. And I think the first agency Billionaire will happen. And I think that will attract the talent that we haven't had in this business back into the business. Because I think there's been a talent erosion in the agency business. And I think that is the root cause. Which leads me to, from the agency side, it's time to reinvest in training. You know, there is a shortage of people that understand social media in this business. There's this huge client demand, and we have stopped spending any money on training because, you know, basically we were mostly general practitioners. Now we have brain surgeons, social media people, that have a skill that clients want and will pay for, and it actually pays for us to invest in training in the agency side, and I think we need to big time reinvest in that. We've created a certification program that takes about a month to go through that we're starting to roll out, where you actually get social media certified. It has, you know, all of the best practices, 300 pages, every part of social media, which at least gets everybody up to a certain level. And I think it's going to be very, very impactful. Groups will consolidate buying power, not just Groupon, but I think circles and everything that's happening with groups and communities forming large and small. I think no one's going to buy anything alone. I believe that families will consolidate, groups, neighborhoods, people will instantly consolidate into groups to get buying power. I think that agents will form that are like procurement agents that buy at a discount for people. And I think the group dynamic will shift even more power to the consumers in this manner. And I think this is going to happen in the next 2 years. Influencers unionize. So I think influencers, I look at 3 eras of influencers. So a year or so ago, There was kind of the era of, wow, this is fun. People actually listening to me. This is great. Look how much respect I have. Then right now we're in the era of great enlightenment. I can make money doing this. People give me free stuff. Wow, that's fantastic. Next comes what I call the era of we're fucked, which basically, hey, we're all going to get together, we're going to have scale, and we're going to set a market for dealing with us. And I think the influencers will unionize, I'm calling unionize, or group together. And if we want to reach certain groups of people, we're going to have to run through that union, and the price is going to go way up. And I think social media is going to get more expensive, and I think this is going to happen. And then after that, and this is the really we're fucked era, I think communities, are going to move to actually launching their own brands. They're going to get so powerful and so entrenched that they're going to have their own brands. And the closest to this is P. Diddy, who has his own community, very strong following. He did a deal with Ciroc Vodka, because I was the agency, and they were doing 50,000 cases, which is nothing. And they replaced me with P. Diddy. And he got a piece of the brand, and now it's doing, I think, 600,000 cases, so it's 12 times. And it's all him leveraging his community and building out his community. I think that dynamic is going to happen in a couple of years out. So it's, again, more power shifting from us to the consumer side. And conferences like this maybe won't cost $1,500. So I think I have a minute left for questions.
You seem to suggest that agencies will be more performance-driven. I'm on the agency side, so I'm just curious. How is that? I see that playing out. Because I think of affiliate marketing and formats like that. But if you're really performance-driven in social, it goes against a lot of what people were saying yesterday that social can even achieve, and maybe that ultimately changes as well. Makes sense as a question. Like, how does your agency culture change when you are truly held to the give me $2 back for every $1 I'm just giving you?
Yeah. I think the issue again is people think that social media. A lot of clients are doing social media because they're supposed to do it and it's cool. That's not sustainable. And people in social media agencies talk about it as if, well, of course it's worth something. And I have to question it and look cynically at it and say the issue is to make a bridge between social media metrics, fans and followers, all of this stuff, to a business metric that I already know has value. If you can find something, so we've done for an auto brand, I can't give you the formula because it's proprietary, but we figured out, okay, the Facebook like is worth X% of a lead, and I know a lead is worth $100, so let's say a Facebook like is 10 of those for each lead. If I get a like for less than $10, I'm ahead. So that's the critical thing, is to create that bridge.
Have you seen the P. Diddy scenario that you say play out in other agencies and other areas, or is that an isolated incident?
I think right now the people that are doing that tend to be celebrity people, and they're using that community. So that's the beginning. I think one day there'll be communities that they're not a person. You know what I mean? They're this thing that's risen up, and they're going to, just like celebrities used to be hired to promote a product, and eventually they said, I want to own the product. Eventually people get wise, or actors, I'd like a piece of the gate. You know what I mean? Eventually, and it's the same movie. I'm just saying, I think it's going to go that way over time.
Hey, John, we've heard a couple of stories more and more about big brands taking on, big brands taking on some of the social skills and technological chops and strategic development. Do you foresee disintermediation from an agency standpoint?
From the client side, you're saying?
Yeah.
Well, the community management part seems to be the thing that a lot of clients are doing in-house. And I still think there is a piece of that agencies will do better. Because the community management people that are tweeting on behalf of a client, posting and all that, there is a brand voice and there is a creative element to that, which agencies do better than clients. The part that clients, I think, should do is when there's a big issue and it escalates to a crisis or a legal issue, or especially service, where you're really not talking about marketing, but you're talking about, you know, I'm on the tarmac and I'm mad because my plane's late or whatever. That part I think is good for agencies. But the art, I mean for clients, the art part I think we own. I mean, there was an example of Peter Schenkman a few weeks ago. He got on a plane, and before he got on a plane, he tweeted that he loves Morton's, that he wished he had a Morton steak when he landed in Newark, as a joke. And you know, they picked that up, the community management people, and they showed up with the steak, cost them $100, and that's gotten huge impact. It's been on TV, it's been tweeted a million times. So the exposure that got, that to me is kind of art, and agencies are really good at that part. So I think that part will own, and it'll be split. Yes.
Hi. So as a brand marketer, I already have probably 6 agencies of record that I have to work with every day. So customer marketing,
yeah.
You know, promo marketing, PR, advertising agencies. And I'm looking for one of my current agencies to step forward and take a leadership from a social standpoint, because the last thing I want to do is have another agency fighting for my time, my dollars, my everything. So what I want to know is it unrealistic of me to expect a quote-unquote traditional agency to be able to take this leadership role for me, or should I be pushing for them to be reaching out to a third agency? I'm struggling with that, because I really don't want to have yet another person at the table when we already have so many.
Yes. I don't think they're going to be able to do it. I mean, our whole proposition at Big Fuel, again, I look at it because I didn't come from social media through the client side, which is last year was the experimental year, and clients were most prudent by putting their toe in the water, a little here, a little there, play around all over the place. Now, social media's got scale, and what happened is last year, everyone made a big mess. You got all different Facebook pages, you got all different agencies, you got a whole huge mess. Somebody has to clean up the mess. And that, to me, is the role of the social media AOR. So nobody wants another seat at the table, but I think you need a social media agency in the middle that has enough breadth. And the other thing is, how do you define social media? Because social media invades everything. Everyone says they do social media. But they don't do the social media AOR, one throat to choke role. And I think, and you know, you kind of gave me a slow one down the middle, so I apologize for presenting ourselves as one of the solutions. But I think that there is a role as the quarterback of the whole thing. You don't have to do everything, but somebody has to put the framework in and know about all the pieces and put them together. And so you don't have to do that, because it takes like a bunch of people to do that job, and you probably have other things to do. So thanks. I think I'm out of time. Am I allowed any more questions? Okay. Oh, yeah.
John, sorry I was a little bit late. I'm not sure if you touched on this, but can you talk at all to using social media data as a form of understanding the audience, understanding the consumer? So not social as a channel, but using the data to inform marketing, advertising, to inform media buying and media planning?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a huge area. I don't even want to answer some of it, because I have some good stuff that I don't want to spit out. Because social media, you know, it's kind of all, you can't hide things anymore. So I won't answer all of it, but it's, you're into it. You know, there is, to me, one of the things about social media is the passion factor that it measures. And I believe that the best brands have always been built by word of mouth. When I started the agency in the late 80s, our whole philosophy was about word of mouth. Everything that's being done today, we had talked about then. It's just being done with scale. And the research insights from what is going to make somebody become a promoter and an advocate to me, are very insightful and influence media decisions and everything else. Because I think the business that brands have always been about a core of loyalists who really are your medium, always have, always will. And the research that comes from that is much more telling than people that semi-like you, who are irrelevant to me. And everyone researches the people that are far away that sort of like you. And I think that all it does is throw you in the wrong direction. And they all say what you should do to change the brand so that they'll like it. And the best thing to do is ignore those people. So